Okay, everybody. If I could, I'd set this in full screen. Is there a way to put this in full screen? I guess. Here we go. Okay, I guess this is full screen forever. But yeah, this is the only part I'm doing until the book comes out in May. So, just so you guys are aware. Prologue. Toward the end of autumn, the merchants visiting Dunkelfelder for trade started returning to their own duchies, while the nobles of the castle began preparing for the weeks to come. Knights went on expeditions to the northern barrier, where they hunted fey beasts, intent on sneaking into the duchy for the winter, and scholars informed the dormitory supervisor of new students, collected information from sovereign nobles visiting home, and scheduled meetings with the Abb and Gibbs over winter. Attendants, meanwhile, prepared to welcome nobles for winter socializing, brought cleaning magic tools to the Royal Academy's dormitory, and checked the furniture there for any issues. And of course, this wants to pop up. Go away. Cordula, head attendant to the Archduke candidate Hannelore, was making her way down a busy hallway inside the castle. She had received a summons from Segonde, the Archduke's first wife, requesting that she head to the noblewoman's chambers. That's not good. Lady Segonde would normally be in her office around now. What must have happened for her to summon me to her chambers instead? It must have been important, but Cordula kept her uncertainty from seeping through as she passed into the castle's restricted area, where the archducal living quarters were situated. Lady Segonde, it is I, Cordula, she announced upon her arrival. It was not particularly rare for a mother to summon her daughter's head attendant for a report. On top of that, Cordula had previously served as Segonde's attendant, and she had spent plenty of time educating Hannelore, so she knew the chambers reasonably well. Yes, come in, Segonde answered. Please take a seat. This might take a while. Cordula did as instructed, albeit with some hesitation. Being summoned was not particularly rare, but being told to sit was. She took a few deep breaths to steady her nerves while waiting for Segonde to speak. We have decided to select marriage candidates for Hannelore, Segonde announced at last. Cordula inhaled sharply. In her third year at the Royal Academy, in the heat of a dinner match, Hannelore had taken Lord Wilfrid of Ehrenfest by the hand and abandoned her team's base despite being its treasure. She had at that moment resolved to marry into Ehrenfest. Yeah, and I think that they had decided that she wasn't going to if she chose not to, or something. I can't remember exactly. Okay, here we go. However, during the Interduchy tournament that followed, Ehrenfest stated that they wanted only an end to the dinner challenge being thrust upon them. They had no interest in taking a bride from Dunkelfelder, as they lacked the means to accommodate a Greater Duchy's archducal candidate, and thereby rejected Hannelore's proposal. The two parties' negotiations had been anything but normal, but nothing changed the fact that Ehrenfest had won the dinner match. Dunkelfelder had needed to accept the refusal, and Hannelore had proposed that they could start by taking a step back and working out what would be actual value to Ehrenfest. Did we not tactfully accept that Milady would focus on looking into what Ehrenfest truly wants? Cordula asked. There were many reasons Hannelore's parents had elected to leave her to her own devices despite Ehrenfest's rejection. First, society looked harshly upon Archduke candidates who brought defeat upon their home duchy. Second, it had been Lestalot, not Wilfrid or Rosamund, who initiated the dinner match at the heart of the matter. Third, they wished to acknowledge Hannelore's decision to work on fixing their relationship with Ehrenfest. And fourth, they believed that Dunkelfelder had much to gain from being on good terms with Ehrenfest, especially considering Rosamund's increasing closeness with the royal family. Indeed, that was the case, Segonde sighed, but not anymore. Plenty had occurred over the past year. Most notably, Hannelore had led knights into the war between old Arensbach and Ehrenfest, securing the latter's victory. I thought the plan was to wait and see the general opinion now that Hannelore has made up for her shame, Cordula said, her brow furrowed. Has the situation changed yet again? Segonde pressed a hand to her forehead. The problem is that Hannelore absolutely refuses to bend, Cordula. Has she said much about Ehrenfest of late? Have there been any exchanges of letters or gifts? No, my lady, nothing of note has transpired. Anything sent to Hannelore would have gone through all sorts of checks before reaching her, and if she had met with someone from Ehrenfest, Cordula would have reported it at once. Segunde let out another heavier sigh. I see. What in the world is that girl thinking? Dunkelfelder had no way of probing into the status of Hannelore's potential engagement, not when Ehrenfest had ordered them to be silent as losers should be. But yeah, I think this takes place, it said, 6 months after the end of the last book. So, I am curious to see how Ferdinand's handling Rosemine at this point. The most they could do was demonstrate Hannelore's value. If that turned out not to be enough for Lord Wolfried to accept her, then there was nothing else to be done. Ehrenfest did not speak about Hannelore during the Archduke conference, nor did they have any of their merchants bring her letters or presents, Cordula stressed. And now that the merchants have returned home, we have no reason to expect any contact. Cordula nodded. The only conclusion they could draw was that Ehrenfest had no intention of ever welcoming Hannelore. At least not at this point, because like we said, this is 6 months after six months after the last book. So it hasn't been that long. And besides, Hannelore is still in the Royal Academy, is she not? Surely she has a chance to spend time with Wolfried and maybe, I don't know, win him over, essentially. So she still has some time. How unfortunate, Segunde mused. I was hoping we could speak about our worth to Ehrenfest and what it might mean for us, but that no longer seems to be in the cards. Hannelore continually defended Ehrenfest, insisting she did not want to bother them further and that Lord Wolfried was a kind soul, but she refused to think about her own future or answer any questions about it. Your intentions completely escape her, Lady Segunde. Milady is so afraid of being scolded that she tends to close her ears and stubbornly refuse to take notice. Ehrenfest did not share their opponent's reverence of bride-stealing dither, so they had simply overturned whatever customs would inconvenience them. Many in Dunkelfelder had seen that as deceitful, asserting that the rules were in place for a reason, and that their actions constituted trickery. Really? You do realize that bride-stealing dither is normally frowned upon, right? No, wait, not bride-stealing dither. It was either bride-stealing dither or bride-taking dither. Wait, was it? I think bride-taking dither was the one that was frowned upon. I think, because isn't bride-stealing dither the one where the two want to be together but the parents are refusing, so they have to do this in order to do it? I think that's what it was. As a result, Hannelore had begun repeating her defense of Ehrenfest almost on instinct whenever the subject came up, making it almost impossible to communicate with her. Given the circumstances, I would say that I have been more than patient enough, Segunde proclaimed. Hannelore has spoken with Ehrenfest and Lady Rosemine personally, has she not? I don't know if she's done it lately, but she's probably done it during the last book. Hannelore had answered Rosemine's call to battle, played a key role in securing her victory, and then accepted an invitation to Ehrenfest's celebration. She had exchanged promises with Rosemine and received a special invite to both the transference ceremony and her inauguration during the Archduke conference. I wanted to see that! Come on, me! What was it? Maya, I think that's what the name of the author was. Come on, give us that at least. At least let us see the Starbind ceremony between Rosemine and Ferdinand once they become old enough. Once she becomes old enough. Good God, I want to see that at least. And yet Hannelore said nothing of the good she can do for Ehrenfest. Strange, is it not? I am starting to question why I was even told of her invitation and why I approved it. Hannelore was valuable to Ehrenfest. They had made that much clear when they invited her to their celebration. Rosemine's obtaining the Gruderstreit meant that Ehrenfest nobles had expected her to go to the sovereignty, so her engagement to Lord Wolfried had secretly been cancelled. There would have been no better opportunity for Hannelore to bring up marrying into the duchy. If she had the time to petition Ehrenfest's archducal couple to be Lady Rosemine and Lord Ferdinand, to let Lady Rosemine and Lord Ferdinand marry, then she had time to at least broach the subject of her own engagement, Segunde opined, whatever. Why did she not ask Lady Rosemine to support her marrying Lord Wolfried? Instead, she merely accepted the offer of a hairpin. What a wasted opportunity. Cordula understood Segunde's frustration all too well. Her head had started to spin when she first received Hannelore's report. Hannelore had nobody to advise her on what to say to Ehrenfest's archducal couple, Cordula said. We neglected to send any attendants or scholars with her, for Lady Rosamund had said their true dinner would be concluded in a matter of 2 bells. Hannelore had gone into battle in a position that would have allowed Dunkelfelder to sever ties with her if necessary. It would have been ideal to at least assign other retainers to her for the celebration, but Ehrenfest was much further away than the castle of Old Ahrensbach. They had not stood a chance of keeping up with Hannelore's group using the teleportation circles they had access to. If only we could have reunited her with her retainers when we learned of her trip to Ehrenfest, where the knights were going to finish venting their enthusiasm. Because that news had coincided with reports of their knights draining the region's food and alcohol stocks, they had hesitated to add more non-combatants to the mix. More than that, though, they had not wanted to send more personnel while Rosamund was unconscious following her theft of Old Ahrensbach's foundation. We could not have predicted that Hannelore would be invited to a celebration immediately after the fighting, Cordula said. Furthermore, we did not expect the knights we sent with her to provide no assistance whatsoever. The knights who had joined Hannelore for the celebration had gone straight to the castle's training grounds, and those who had stayed in Bindelwald had waited in the Giebs estate. Both groups had been so excited about their joint training with another duchy that they had mentioned nothing else in their reports. It really had been headache-inducing. Yeah, I can understand that. Segonde and Cordula sighed at the same time. Outside of combat, Dunkelfelder knights were so very unreliable. I should wish to learn from Lady Adolphine's example, Segonde mused. She exposed Lord Sigiswald's misdeeds before the Avatar and New Zent, then secured her divorce without showing even a shred of weakness. Nice. She got out of that marriage. I doubt Hannelore could manage such an approach. It would suit her better to pin Lord Wolfrey down and demand conditions for their engagement. I don't think Hannelore would do that. She doesn't seem like the type who would actually do that. She seems more timid. She's not like Clarissa, that's for sure. Considering how long Hannelore had spent agonizing over what to do, mimicking Adolphine would clearly be too much for her. She was not the type to follow Clarissa's example and earn her engagement by force, for while she lacked social dexterity, she had all the mana and combat potential expected of an Archduke candidate. I would accept any course of action from her, but alas, I cannot wait any longer, not now that our duchy ranks higher than any other in Jürgenschmidt. Indeed, in honor of their contributions to the invasion of the Royal Academy and the war against Lanzenhof, Dunkelfelder had been granted the highest rank during the most recent Archduke Conference. Nice! So, Dunkelfelder's now number 1 instead of Klassenberg. Klassenberg had not been able to protest, and neither had any of the other duchies, for none of them had involved themselves in the battles that saved the country. As for the 2nd and 3rd ranks, those had been given to the new duchies of Blumenfield and Karinstam, which were being run by former royals Trarqual and Sigiswald respectively. Klassenberg occupied the 4th space, and Drwankel the 5th, which constituted a rather severe drop for them both. In truth, Segonde said, Lord Sigiswald probed Hannelore for an engagement during the conference. What? Dude! Leave the poor girl alone! You've already got a freaking wife with a baby! And I think you had... Adolphine was going to be your 2nd wife, and Rosamund was going to be your 3rd. So you only got 1 now. Focus on that. Yeah, that is news to me. It must have been good for his image, since it came hot on the heels of his separation from Lady Adolphine. Or it cannot have been good for his image. He must really wish to keep Drwankel from glowering while he developed his new duchy. A mischievous smirk spread across the noblewoman's face. He used such vague language that we are merely feigning ignorance of the proposal. Cordula gave a half smile. The first wife had retained the strong spirit of her youth. Perhaps he should have spoken more clearly then. I assume he will try again, though not until the next interduchy tournament at the earliest. As more time passed, Sigiswald would no longer need to mention his divorce. And as his new duchy, Karinstam, had such a small archducal family, he would need a 2nd or 3rd wife post-haste. It was only natural that he would seek assistance from the highest-ranking duchy he could. Yeah, because he's not going to be able to go after Adolphine, because she got the divorce, and she ain't going back to him. That'd be stupid of her. And Hannelore is definitely not going to. As it stands, his duchy ranks below ours, Cordula said, but the former royals still enjoy a great deal of power, so we might be hard-pressed to refuse any future advances. Quite. Next year, alongside the other duchies, Blumenfeld and Karinstam will receive rankings based on their harvest and authority. I doubt they will remain where they are now, but who can say how long the prestige of being former royalty will matter to noble society at large? Had a Zent arisen from a family entirely unrelated to the royals in power, then the previous royal family would have lost all status in the blink of an eye. Only because the Divine Avatar had seen fit to grant the Grutterscheid to Eglantine were they clinging to even a fraction of their former authority. Eglantine had taken Anastasius as her groom, and cordially expected their immediate family to hold inflated ranks for quite some time. Milady's position certainly has changed. Only a year ago, the stain on Hannelore's honor had made her feel out of place, even at home. Now, however, she had cleared her name by taking part in True Ditter, made friends with the Divine Avatar, and proven her worth as an Archduke candidate of the country's top-ranking duchy. She has done so well that even Drwonkel inquired about taking her hand in marriage, Segonde. We refused them on the spot, of course. Oh my, is that so? Because of her duties as Hannelore's head attendant, Cordula had not gone to the Archduke conference and was somewhat out of the loop as a result. On the one hand, she wished to have faster access to news related to her lady's future, but on the other, she understood that refused proposals were anything but urgent. So I wonder who was the one who was wanting to have her hand in marriage. Was it Adolphine's brother? What was his name? I don't remember. It was Wilfried's friend. I don't know if he's still friends with him or not. We cannot yet say how Lord Sigiswald and Lady Adolphine's separation will impact Drwonkel and its relationship with the new duchies, and their drop in rank makes their interest in such an engagement perfectly understandable. Segonde explained. However, their interest in Hannelore came while they were chastising Lord Sigiswald for attempting to remarry so soon. I could not help but feel they were committing the same shameless act. Segonde sighed, shook her head in exasperation, and continued. I asked Lord Anastasius about the matter. As it turns out, when the divorce was settled, Drwonkel asked for a royal decree that would secure them a marriage with Alexandria. What? Then, when they were refused, they asked for a marriage with the Zent. Excuse me, what? So, essentially, they were trying to get their foothold in Alexandria, and then they tried with the Zent, which means they would have to get one of their sons to marry Eglantine. Would that actually go well, considering how in love Anastasius and Eglantine are? Now, if it had been a political marriage with those two, then it wouldn't have been that big of a stretch. And when they were refused a second time, they sought to marry Hannelore, cordially mused. Even for a political engagement, that sounds far too self-serving. It was not unusual to start with one's best option with approaching less ideal alternatives, but Cordula could not stand the thought of her lady being looked down upon. Segonde went on. Zent Eglantine has made it clear that she intends to prioritize Dunkelfelger and Alexandria over Klassenburg. Nice! In that regard, we should expect more greater duchies to seek an engagement with ours. We must be even more on guard during this year's Interduchy tournament and the next Archduke Conference. Even at the Royal Academy, we will need to keep our distance from other duchies. By choosing Hannelore's potential suitors now, we shall give ourselves the means to deflect with bride-taking dinner if another duchy should propose. Yeah, dip that in the butt now. That way, when they try in the at the Archduke Conference or the Interduchy tournament, you can say, yeah, that's not happening. We've already got our candidate, so yeah, back off. Cordula nodded. Sorting out a potential partner for Hannelore would make her next academic term all the more manageable, and she could also get to know whoever she's marrying anyway during that time if they go to the Royal Academy with her. So that helps. I see now why this has to be done, but why take this approach over arranging a natural engagement? Hannelore's father could always decide not to wait for his daughter to work things out with Ehrenfest and choose her future husband for her, which usually is the case. But I guess they're giving her the choice. Segonde responded with a wry smile. To light a fire under her, first of all. She has become far too complacent as of late. But I also wish to give my daughter some choice in whom she marries, especially with all the Lestalot has put her through. A proper engagement would deter other duchies far better than mere suitors. but Segway wished to compensate Hannelore for all she had done. Yeah, Lestalot put her through the ringer with that bride-taking dinner thing. But, I am curious as to what Lestalot thinks about this whole, Rosemine being Ob of Alexandria now. She's still butthurt that he couldn't have her. Even if we took the other approach, and Wordcraft chose Hannelore's partner for her, this is what his name is, the engagement would not be set in stone until the Zet approved it during the next Archduke Conference, Segway continued. Choosing only suitors should at least give Hannelore a chance to make her own selection. Segway intended to be fully considerate of her daughter's wishes. Hannelore could choose one of the Dunkelfelgerian suitors her parents picked out for her, or, if she was proactive enough, move things along with their infest. An onlooker might see this as merely an act of compassion between a mother and daughter, but Lady Segway also means to repay Lady Hannelore for the damage her brother caused. Hannelore had wiped away the shame of her past defeat and strengthened her personal value through her friendship with the Divine Avatar. She could stay in Dunkelfelger if she so wished, or marry into any other duchy of her choice. If she was proactive and chose Wilfried, she'd be a lot closer to being able to spend more time with Rosemine than she did if she stayed in Dunkelfelger. Because Ehrenfest and Alexandria are right next to each other, essentially. So if they wanted to, they could arrange to spend time together. A lot easier than in Dunkelfelger, at least. The problem is, Segway ruminated, no names come to mind. Can you think of anyone, Cordula? I think choosing Archnobles would be ideal to help quiet those who would argue that Hannelore should be the next Ob now that she has taken part in True Dinner. It is law that female Obs must be married to Archduke candidates, so pairing her with an Archduke or an Archnoble seems an excellent solution. Okay, so I thought Lestalot was going to be the next Ob, because he was supposed to stick around and stay with the Foundation when Hannelore went with Rosemine and them. I don't know. Those men would marry into her house, not the other way around, correct? Correct. It would be too great a loss for our duchy to reduce her to the rank of Archnoble. Other duchies might even consider it a weakness to exploit. Cordula nodded, tapped a finger against her cheek, and cast her eyes down in thought. Dunkelfelger had its share of unattached men who could match Hannelore's mana. Someone from an archducal branch family would be ideal for marrying into her house, and supporting Lestalot with his duties as the next Ob. That's what I thought. You have some understanding of what is going on beneath the surface, do you not? Segway asked. Although I see all of the engagement requests sent to the Ob, I cannot fully grasp the circumstances behind them. In her capacity as Hannelore's head attendant, Cordula is better able to acquire such knowledge. Oh, even my knowledge network has its gaps. Gathering intel about Lady Rageline's faction has been troublesome for a start. The second wife remains as vigilant as ever. We need not consider such people. In the interest of keeping things simple, let us only choose suitors from among our own faction. I do not want Hannelore being swayed this way or that by our rivals. Yeah, best to keep it in your own faction. Perhaps due to her kind and rather timid nature, Hannelore had trouble ignoring others' opinion and tended to bury her own thoughts rather than express them freely. On countless occasions, people had mistaken her silence for tacit agreement, and she had ended up on the verge of tears as she attempted to correct them. It took her a long time to make decisions, but she refused to change them once her mind was made up. Marrying someone from another faction would place too great a burden on Milady's heart. Best if we restrict ourselves to her faction. That leaves us only her and Lord Lestalot's retainers. Indeed, they will merely be potential grooms, so I will not require them to cancel any pre-existing arrangements they might have. In the event that Hannelore succeeds in her negotiations with Ehrenfest, they will return to their previous engagements. Dunkelfelger would acknowledge those deemed worthy to marry Hannelore, but none of them would actually be engaged to her. They would be free to prioritize anyone else they had already made plans with. Among my daughter's retainers, who would make ideal candidates, Segway asked. I am told that Luitpold is rather deep into arranging his own engagement, which puts him out of the question. We need someone else who can reinforce Lord Lestalot's power base, do we not? In that case, I would expect his own retainers to be ideal. Neither Kentrips nor Rosentark should be taken at the moment. Kentrips and Rosentark were Hannelore's cousins. Both were sons of Ob Dunkelfelger's elder brother, though they did not share a mother. Even before their baptisms, they had frequently been brought into the castle to help teach Lestalot and Hannelore to socialize with the other children their age. In that regard, one would say they were longtime friends as well as family. From what I have seen, both are rather fond of Lady Hannelore. Oh my, is that so? Segway asked, eyes widening with surprise. Cantrips consoled and protected Milady whenever Lord Lestat lashed over at her. As for Rosentark, I could see the admiration in his eyes as he watched her tearfully push through her intense training. You speak of when they were children, do you not? Does their fondness for Hannelore remain even to this day? It was my understanding that a wedge has since been driven between her and Lestat's retainers. Lestat had wagered his sister's engagement without her permission, and she had thrown the game for love. The outcome had done much to change Dunkelfelder's relationship with Hannelore, but also severely damaged Hannelore's relationship with her older brother. In the event of such controversies, retainers had a tendency to side with their lord or lady. For Milady's sake, Cantrips and Rosentark strived to keep the dormitory in order during Lord Lestat's absence, cordially explained. Although, as you know, she is stubborn to a fault, and their concern ended up being for nothing. The two brothers had taken issue with Ehrenfest's refusal to marry Hannelore despite winning their dinner match. They felt that someone precious to them was being looked down upon, as did Cordula and all of Hannelore's other retainers. The dinner match started it all, which meant the blame rests primarily with Lord Lestat, Cordula said. Still, Ehrenfest played their part by refusing Milady's hand. Had their opponents accepted the proposal, so as per the rules of their game, then Hannelore would never have been thought of as the Archduke candidate who brought about her duchy's defeat. Instead, she would have been the expert tactician who exploited even her older brother for the sake of love. Milady's failure to grasp this, coupled with how desperately she defends Ehrenfest, has produced this unfortunate situation where others' concerns do not properly reach her. Still, their feelings for her remain the same. Cantrips, Rosentark, and Hannelore's retainers all still cherished her dearly. Segway's lips curled into a relieved smile. I see. I shall consider Cantrips and Rosentark then. Entering the dormitory. Lady Hannelore, the preparations are complete, Cordula said. Let us depart. It was the day of my return to the Royal Academy. I rose to my feet and my head attendant's call, trying to seem calm and composed, but my spirits were painfully low. As nice as it was to socialize with other duchies, free from parental supervision, it was exhausting constantly having to worry about besmirching my name as an Archduke candidate of Dunkelfelder. The past year, in particular, had seen so many changes that going to the academy now felt more depressing than ever. This will be farewell for quite some time, Lady Hannelore, my adult retainer said, cheering me on. We look forward to reports of your success at the Royal Academy. Once we had said our goodbyes, I exited my room with Cordula and my apprentice guard knight, Elise. Our shoes clacked against the white stone underfoot as we made our way to the teleportation hall. The floors of Ehrenfest's castle had been adorned with thick carpets when we attended the victory celebration in spring. Here the floors were completely bare. Dunkelfelder was one of the hotter duchies in Jürgenschmidt, so our carpets were embroidered with cooling magic, and we only brought them out to battle the summer heat. Gathering will start as soon as we reach the dormitory, Elise announced. I nodded. We had to prepare materials for our classes, but there was also the matter of confirming whether our gathering spot had any to begin with. We can only pray that we will not need to perform the healing ritual, I said. I wonder how the gathering spot will fare this year. Last I heard, Rosentark had resolved to impress you. I would rather not think about it. It was customary in Dunkelfelder for second years to enter the dormitory before anyone else. The third years would arrive next, then the fourth, and so on, with the first years being the last to arrive. It was an unusual order of doing things by Jürgenschmidt standards, but it was the only way for the younger students to stand a chance of gathering what they needed for their classes. In other duchies, the eldest students would apparently arrive first. They hunt the more dangerous babies to make the gathering spot safe for their first years. Dunkelfelder, however, was a duchy of warriors, which made that consideration unnecessary. It was more important to keep the 6 years from clearing out the entire gathering spot, leaving nothing for everyone else. Not to mention, Dunkelfelder needs more rejuvenation potions than the other duchies, owing to all the dinner we play. By teaching everyone the prayer to rejuvenate gathering spots, Lady Rosamunda eased the battle for ingredients to a noticeable degree. Even then, the amount of mana it required meant it could not be performed lightly. Everyone was praying to obtain divine protections, but with the amount of mana that classes required, things were far from simple. Mother, Father, Lestat, and their retainers came to bid me farewell. I could see Cantrips, my brother's apprentice scholar, and one of the boys chosen to potentially become my fiancé waiting among them. Our eyes met, and he smiled at me. I smiled back without even thinking. I could only pray that was not awkward of me. It had not been too long ago that Father had informed me of the potential suitors he had chosen for me. As well as being my brother's retainers, Kentrips and Rosentark were my childhood friends and family. I knew them well, but the sudden announcement had rendered me uncertain of how to interact with them. I placed a hand on my cheek, hoping that my smile had not been unnatural in some way. The gesture prompted Mother to step forward. Hannelore, for as long as you are on the Academy grounds, take great care to act in a manner befitting an Archduke candidate of the country's top-ranking duchy. Yes, Mother. The rise of a Zent with the Grutischi had resulted in the reformation of several previously deposed duchies and enormous changes to the duchy rankings during the last Archduke conference. We are bound to feel the impact of the Royal Academy as well. Blumenfield and Corinthsdam are expected to hold their current ranks for only a single year before the former royal status loses relevance. But some students will get carried away nonetheless, Father began. Only the Zent couple and Dunkelfelger, the first, will possess the authority to chastise those who let their newfound power get to their heads. For that reason, you must never forget your pride as the Zent sword and... Mustn't I? Because I really rather would. A quiet sigh escaped me as I stopped paying attention to whatever lecture Father was giving me. Being an Archduke candidate at Dunkelfelder, was already an enormous and exceptionally unpleasant burden, and something told me it was about to get 100 times worse. The formation of new duchies, the changes to the Royal Academy's curriculum, the reveal of shocking truths about the Temple and their Bibles during the Archduke Conference, and more would make gathering intel from other duchies an unbearable mess. For once, I actually bemoaned the fact that my brother had graduated. It astounds me that such sweeping revolutions would come about when I, not my brother, must serve as Dunkelfelder's representative, I said. Is it not cruel that my timing is this unfathomably poor? I won't deny that your timing is tragic, but what right do you have to complain? Lancelot shot back with a grin. There was an unmistakable glint in his red eyes. You made your burden all the worse by showing up to the Archduke Conference's inauguration ceremony. Mother warned you not to go, remember? I cast my eyes down. He was right. It had never even crossed my mind that simply attending an inauguration ceremony would attract so much attention. Mother had not wanted me to go. She had said the Archduke Conference was no place for a minor, invitation or no, but I refused to budge. Nothing would stop me from seeing Lady Rosamind's inauguration with my own eyes. Well, Lady Rosamind kept her promise and invited me, I muttered. Refusing her was out of the question. Lady Rosamind had looked stunning during the ceremony. The face-stone necklace given to her by her... They're actually engaged! Yes! But her fiancé, Lord Ferdinand, had sparkled wonderfully against her chest. Both had worn colors that accentuated their hair, making it clear at a glance how close they were. I was glad from the bottom of my heart to have seen the smiles of unwavering trust they gave one another. Was it actually the smile that he actually would... is that an actual smile for him? Or was it his dazzling smile that shows he's not happy? That's what I'd like to know, because Rosamind knows him better than anybody. Hannelore does not. My nostalgic daydreaming must have spread to Lancelot as well. That certainly was a once-in-a-lifetime ceremony, he mused aloud. Lady Rosamind's hair was down, as she had yet to come of age, and the skirt she wore went only to her shins. Minors aren't usually allowed at the Archduke Conference, but there we saw the birth of an underage Aub. A voice had cried out during the ceremony that there was no precedent of anyone underage becoming an Aub, in which Lady Rosamund had declared that she was the precedent. Zent Eggleston then spoke in her favor, insisting that she had only been able to become an Aub at all because noble society had pushed for the age of stab acquisition to be reduced. Nobody had protested after that. Brother, the splendorous blessing that Lady Rosamund gave us all once she had been recognized as an Aub overwhelmed you so severely that you were unable to stay calm for the entirety of the Starbind ceremony. I shot Lancelot a glare. You have even more artwork of Lady Rosamund and Zent Eggleston in your chambers, no? As I understand it, Ainleib is none too pleased. Ainleib and my brother had married on the same day as Lady Rosamund's inauguration. Oh, so, Lancelot got married at his Starbind ceremony that year. Okay. Yeah, I wish they didn't do a time skip. I would love to see what goes on with Lady Rosamund and Ferdinand now. Even more now. Zent Eggleston had performed the ceremony as a sovereign high bishop. She really had looked beautiful, but I can understand why Ainleib took issue with her new husband, ceaselessly drawing other women. Yeah! Dude, stop that. Lancelot grimaced and told me to keep my nose where it belonged, but his business was very much mine. This was a matter of grave importance. You should worry about your own situation, not Einlieb, whatever, he added. Attending the ceremony has cost you greatly. Curiosity alone was a poor reason to go. That, I admit, is one of my regrets. Although I had only attended the inauguration and the Starbind ceremonies held in the morning, being the only minor invited to observe the Archduke Conference had caused the entire noble populace to mark me as an especially close friend of Lady Rosemine. They were entirely correct, of course. We had spent years together as members of the Academy's Library Committee, researched religious ceremonies together, invaded Ahrensbach and fought in Lanzenhof together, celebrated together, arranged to have matching hairpins together. I am overjoyed that Lady Rosemine considers me her friend, but I ended my sentence there. I thought the rest went without saying, but Lancelot elected to chime in anyway. There is much to gain from being Lady Rosemine's friend, but trouble follows her wherever she goes. Indeed, the problems that went hand in hand with Lady Rosemine's friendship had been looming over me since the conference, especially now that she has more sway over the Zent than anybody else, Lancelot continued. Father nodded gravely. Indeed, on many occasions throughout the conference, Zent Eglantine openly consulted Lady Rosemine rather than her home duchy of Klassenburg. It's only natural that all the other Obs were desperate for some form of connection to Ob Alexandria. Father was right, but actually obtaining those connections was a monumental task. An underage girl would naturally attract men seeking to marry her, but Lady Rosemine already had a partner in Lord Ferdinand. Ha ha! Yeah, suck it! Y'all can't get anywhere near her with Ferdinand around. Ha ha ha! And I don't even know if she would actually take a second husband. Would she? I don't think so. He had obtained the Zent's approval, exchanged face stones, and arranged an engagement ceremony in the brief period between the Lanzenhof War and the Archduke Conference. Nobody could hope to best him. Oh, I agree on that one. As someone who had seen the fighting up close, I knew that it was nothing but reckless to oppose Lord Ferdinand. He could formulate and execute several plans at once, meaning the only way to defeat him was to lay several traps and pray that he might wander into them, which he won't. Otherwise, he was practically unbeatable now that he was properly engaged to Lady Rosemine. Lord Ferdinand will not take any other wives now that he has married a female Ob, Mother said. Lancelot crossed his arms and nodded. Some Obs proposed that he take mistresses alongside the Ob, but he shot them down every time. He said that Ob Alexandria is every one of his goddesses! What the fuck? Dude! Ferdinand! Good lord, dude! So she is his Gadul now. Okay, I get it. Okay. What, does that make him Abiglave in this situation? Oh, dear. Oh, I can see something happening where if Abiglave was somehow able to get out of his seal, because the whole country is a seal to keep Abiglave at bay. If he was able to get out, I could see something happening where he possesses Ferdinand. I could see that happening. And if he happens, oh, we are in trouble. That's for sure. Oh my, I exclaimed. I was not aware of that. You simply must tell me more. I want to know more. We all want to know more. During my time in Ehrenfest, Lady Rosemine had spoken dryly about her marriage to Lord Ferdinand, explaining it away as a political union devoid of romance. He must have won her over with his words and actions in the meantime. Her heart had surely been moved by his passion. In public, no. In private, maybe. Because they don't act like... They keep up a proper facade, I guess a proper mask, I guess you could say, out in public. Because you're not supposed to show your emotions in public. But I'm guessing in private, that's a different story. I gazed up at Lancelot, my own heart brimming with hope, but he just grimaced. I don't have anything more to tell you. He said it with a suspicious grin, so I don't know how serious he was. I'm curious enough about this. I'm assuming that was possibly just something he said to keep up the act. Or maybe that is actually how he feels. I don't know. I was desperate for the details, but my brother cut the conversation short. It was a shame, really. The little he had told me sounded so sweet. It could have come straight from the pages of a love story. I resolved to ask Lady Rosemine for the rest. On second thought, Perhaps not. Her response will surely be as draining as when she opined about creating a library city. If an exciting tale of romance was what one desired, then Lady Rosamund was the last person to ask. I knew that well from my experience in Ehrenfest. Yeah, she's not good. She's dense when it comes to romance in her own life. As it stands, Mother said, Alexandria's archducal family comprises only Lord Ferdinand, Lady Rosamund, and Lady Letizia. Although most still view the latter as an archduke candidate of old Arensbach, she is currently engaged to Lord Hildebrand. I gave a careful nod. We will need to use this academic year to determine Lady Letizia's relationship with Lady Rosamund, Father said. And more, of course, I wish to know how the Lesser and Middle Duchies, not to mention Klassenberg and Jawalko, are approaching the situation and what they think about the new obs. Find out as much as you can, Hannelore, and you too, Kentrips. Kentrips nodded and said, understood. He was a 6-year apprentice arch scholar, which meant we were pinning our hopes on him more than anyone. We need as much information about the other duchies as we can get our hands on, Father continued, a bitter look on his face. Many will recognize the difficulties of establishing a direct connection with Alexandria and will attempt to reach them through you or Ehrenfest's archduke candidates instead. They hope to secure Lady Rosamund's attention and her assistance in reforming their temples. Indeed, Mother added, our joint research with Ehrenfest has led to plenty of our knights seeking Leidenschaft's spear from our temple. Many of our other nobles go there too, hoping to obtain more divine protections, but I doubt other duchies would share their enthusiasm. You have a heavy burden to bear, Hannelore. My mother was correct. In the event that I married into another duchy, I would surely be lumbered with the expectations of reforming my new home's temple as successfully as we had reformed our own. I doubted that I would even be able to. A lot of our progress came down to the fact that so many of our knights sought to acquire Leidenschaft's spear. Father had almost certainly chosen my 2 potential fiancés from within our network to preserve Dunkelfelder's bond with Alexandria and to protect me from being wed into another duchy. My intention had originally been to marry elsewhere, so I was not particularly attached to Ditter, but all of my life's plans had since been turned on their head. On the bright side, being at the top of the rankings means that no other duchy can force its demands on you, Father said. Had we not been so fortunate, we wouldn't have been able to refuse that proposal for Prince Sigiswald. If you wish to avoid being married into Karinsdam in the future, then you will need to choose either Rosentark or Kentrips as your fiancé and receive approval for your marriage during the next Archduke Conference. Or she would have to find her own fiancé, or find her own guy to engage with, or to be with, essentially, before the next Archduke Conference. So it's either she has to pick those two, one of those two, find someone else, or someone else will throw their hat in the ring. I don't know. I took an instinctive step back in the face of my father's intensity. Kentrips and Rosentark must have been the only women in our duchy who stood in my mana, faction, and age. They were my uncle's sons and my brother's retainers. I was expected to take one of them as a groom and support Lestalot in the future. Though honestly speaking, I would rather not marry either of them. I didn't have anything against them personally, I just was not ready for an engagement that would decide the course of my future. It surely had not helped that when Father announced them as my marriage prospects, my thoughts had turned straight to Lord Wolfried and the hand he had reached out to me. Kentrips and Rosentark always speak so ill of Lord Wolfried and Ehrenfest. I glanced at the green-haired Kentrips who stood next to my brother as his apprentice attendant. Although he was exceptionally smart, he was unmistakably a scholar of the sword. He created all manner of violent magic tools meant to secure victory during our dinner matches at the Royal Academy. In fact, it had seemed to me that people expected more of him than they expected of the knights. You are the pride of Dunkelfelder, Lady Hannelore, he said, his smile reaching his gray eyes. I am proud to have been chosen as a candidate for your hand in marriage. Kentrips had always been so kind. These days, however, it was common to see him with a rather grim look on his face. Rosentark, my other potential suitor, had already teleported to the academy. He was an apprentice arch-knight in the same grade as me who greatly resembled Heishes and seemed to think of nothing but Ditter. Oh, God. Choosing him or Kentrips as my fiancé would almost certainly doom me to a life saturated with Ditter matches. Oh, God, girl. If you want to get out of the Ditter matches, I would suggest Wolfried, because he's not really a fan of Ditter either. Although that would still be better than marrying Lord Sigiswald, who attempted to court Lady Rosamund and ended up separated from Lady Adolphine. Lebeskelf must not have had eyes for me. Lady Rosamund proclaimed that her love for Lord Ferdinand was purely familial, but that did not change the fact that she was now engaged to someone who truly cared about her. I could only hope to find someone who cherished me the same way. I am more in need of Lebeskel's divine protection than Dragoner's, oh Lebeskel, goddess of binding, if I shan't be so indulgent as to request a romance so dramatic as those in my favorite stories. I simply wish to have other options. As I squeezed the Lebeskel charm Cordula had made for me, Father gestured me onto the teleportation circle. My head attendant nodded, then helped me into my winter overclothes. It was so hot in Dunkelfrugge that I always waited until right before teleporting to put them on. I stepped onto the circle with Haley's. Hannelore, Mother called as if only then remembering something. Yes, I asked, turning around. This is Rothberg's first year at the Royal Academy. He is rather anxious about it, as you can imagine. Guide him well as an elder student and a fellow Archduke candidate. I fought against the urge to avert my eyes. Had they not thrust too much upon me already? Rothberg was the son of Father's second wife. Because his baptism had come after the decision was made for Lestalot to become the next Ob, he was far more a knight than an Archduke candidate. My retainers reported that he thought of nothing but dinner. Truth be told, I knew very little about Rothberg. He spent his days training alongside the knights, whereas I focused on what was required of me as a member of the Archducal family. We were neither the same sex, nor the same school year, so we had never trained together, but he must have been quite rowdy. Although his younger sister Lungtays had been permitted to attend the Grutschite transference ceremony, he himself had needed to stay away. Had he been born 2 years later, I might not have had to struggle like this. And how nice it would have been for Lungtays to be his elder. Such meaningless thoughts wandered through my mind as I stepped onto the teleporter. The time has come for me to depart, I announced. Indeed, keep a close eye on all that you can. I would need to maneuver the changes to the Duchy's rankings, new curricula, my reputation as the Divine Avatar's friend, 2 potential fiancés, and a half-sibling in need of guidance. It might have been the first time in my life that I was dreading the freedom of the Royal Academy. A sigh escaped me just as the teleportation circle at my feet lit up. Black and gold swirled around me, distorting my vision. We gathered your share of ingredients, Lady Hannelore. Consider your class as prepared for, Rosenthal declared. He had rushed over to me the moment I arrived at the academy, his chestnut eyes sparkling and orange hair bouncing with each step. Now we can play dinner! We ask you to permit us to use the training grounds. He sounds the same as ever, despite the fact that we could one day end up husband and wife. Am I the strange one for thinking so carefully about how I should speak with him? Kentrips and I were still trying to navigate the change, but Rosenthal seemed to think nothing of the situation at all. Rows of apprentice knights stood behind him, champing at the bit. No pillars of light had appeared back home. No matter how hard we prayed, they must have been eager to test out the results of their training in the temple. Cordula, I said, I shall prepare your rooms. Please unlock the grounds at the meantime. There was no real difference between gathering ingredients and going to the training grounds. I had no reason to refuse, but seeing Rosenthal rejoice over dinner made disappointment swell in my chest. He's not a bad person, far from it, but as a potential groom? Conceding to the request, I went to the training grounds with Hyley's. Thus began my 5th year at the Royal Academy, and I'm assuming this is where it's going to end. Yep. Okay, I will see you guys in the next video, but it's going to be the short story collection next, possibly. Anyway, I'll see you on the next one.